Good morning, Simon. Your reaction
Morning.
to the news that this law has been passed in Wales?
Well, I mean, you and I and Vivian could have a long debate about the merits and demerits of smacking, but what the politicians in Wales and Scotland have done is they've decided that um, not only can you not debate it, but if you're a parent who takes a different view, you're going to be criminalised. Viv tries to say that we're not creating a new law, but the plain facts are obvious that at the moment, if a mum smacks a toddler on the back of the legs or the back of the hand and is reported to the police know that that's just reasonable chastisement and they're not going to bother that parent. Now, or rather in 2 years' time, I should say, when this law comes into force, it will be a matter for the police, and it's going to do terrible damage because, again, to be clear, what we're talking about here is the mildest possible kind of discipline that a parent might use. Your introduction, you talked about children being protected from abuse, the same as adults. Well, of course, they are protected from abuse, but the fact remains that in polls, a majority of people do not think you should criminalise smacking. A majority of people think that it's sometimes necessary to smack a naughty child. And the law
Can
at
I
the
just
moment is
come in
very
there then
clear.
now?
Well, let me just finish this point and I'll happily concede. The law is very clear that if a parent does anything that leads to more than transient reddening of the skin, that's already a criminal offence. So by definition, what we are criminalising by this new measure is the mildest possible actions. Sorry, Viv, after you.
Sorry, I was just going to get, and Welsh Government have tracked attitudes towards physical punishment, and most people now would not physically punish their children. And in fact, it's actually in Wales, something like 80%, 4/5 of the population think it is not necessary. They use other methods to discipline their children. And in fact, in Wales, 58% of parents already think physical punishment of children is banned. So
yeah, I mean,
you've
I've
got to
seen
think
that
in terms
polling
of
that
attitudes towards bringing up children, and the evidence, the research evidence shows, it's very clear that physical punishment has the potential to harm your child.
well, I'm very happy to come back on both of those points. I mean, on the point of the polling that you're citing, that's the Welsh Government's panel of parents, people who agree to be in
No,
touch
it's
with the
not.
Welsh
It's
Government about this issue,
independent
and so
research. They're
it's
tracking
no.
it,
I mean,
and it's
we've seen
independent.
poll after poll after poll showing that most people think it's sometimes necessary, and certainly something like 3/4 of people routinely, whatever they think of smacking, don't think it should be criminal. And as for the research, the Welsh Government itself said in its consultation paper, they conceded that there isn't and never will be any evidence showing that the kind of mild smacking that we're talking about here is harmful. And so there just isn't the research for this. What they've said is the research doesn't prove it's harmful, but we're going to criminalise it anyway.
Can I just ask you a question, Simon? Viv, sorry, I'll give you a comeback in just a second. Simon, it's the mild. The use of the word mild that as a parent I'm struggling with. It's in the eyes of the victim, isn't it, whether something is mild or not. And the idea that it would only hurt a child if there's reddening of the skin. If I was to give you a slap, Simon, for example, which I wouldn't do, I could be charged with assault, common assault, whether there's reddening of your skin or not. Why aren't children entitled to that same defence in law when arguably they are the least able in society to defend themselves?
Well, I think that there's a world of difference in between the relationship between you and me and the relationship between us and our children. As parents, we have unique responsibilities for our children. We are the ones 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who have to care for them, and we're the ones who have to try and raise them to be caring and capable members of society. And with responsibility has to come power. And the fact is, whether you like it or not, many people, many parents, think that occasionally smacking a child on the back of the hand whilst explaining what they've done, or smacking them on the back of the legs, is the right thing to do. Now,
I
the
can't
question
imagine
is,
ever doing that, though, Simon, as a
well,
parent. I
I'm
always
sure
think
you can't, and you don't have to. But should you be able to get the criminal law to criminalise parents who do? That's the question. The question is not whether you or I
about
like
criminalisation.
smacking.
I
The question
understand.
is whether the police should be involved, because we know, I mean, again, Vivian says, and the Welsh Government say, they're joining 58 other countries in the world that have done this. That is factually incorrect. Most of those countries have not criminalised smacking. Many of them just use civil laws, not criminal laws. Many of them use symbolic laws or laws with no enforcement mechanism. That's a world of difference between what's going to happen in Wales and in Scotland, where somebody can report a parent to the police and it will be treated by the police as a criminal matter. A file may be passed to the CPS and all that follows from that.
I understand
and that's
that.
before you even get to the issue of social services intervention.
And is there a danger here, Viv, that the world now is one where children are very aware and savvy of their rights, and that they have communication devices as well? My son, who is now 11, for example, has got his phone. My daughter's got her little phone that she plays around with at home. They're very aware, and it's a good thing, of organisations like Childline, but you can imagine a disgruntled child just picking up the phone for the sake of it, couldn't you? This idea of parents becoming criminalised when there is no offence there. It's a difficult one to prove, this.
I think children being aware of their rights is a really good thing. They need to be aware when things that are happening to them aren't okay and be able to seek help. In terms of what Simon's saying and the sort of surveys that Be Reasonable have commissioned, they use a slightly different terminology. If you use the should we ban smacking versus should we give children the same protection under assault law as adults enjoy, the answers are completely different. And what
That's right, because the second question is misleading. What we're actually talking about is criminalising smacking. No, the second question
is the accurate description of the law. And in terms of criminalising parents, in all the countries, New Zealand, Ireland, various, these are common law jurisdictions, very few parents have actually been criminalised, and that would be the same in
No, that's
Wales.
not true. The Chen Palmer report coming out of New Zealand shows that many parents have been criminalised under the law.